Okay, today I'm going to make cheese stuffed arepas. Now, I got to admit, when I first got to Colombia, the first time I tried an arepa, I wasn't really impressed. But it was from a little lunch place, and they didn't, let's just say they didn't use the best ingredients, and the cooking methods really weren't that good. It was just a plain, to me, not really anything to talk about. But then one night in Bogota, me and another guy were out, and the driver stopped at a little roadside stand. The guy was making arepas, and they were actually incredible. Got talking to the guy and found out that some of his family members out in the country made their cornmeal that they used, and it was an old family recipe, and that's what made his little stand so popular. Anyway, I'm going to get started, and we'll get these going. Okay, the first thing you're going to need is this masa arepa. This is the masa that's used to make arepas. It's cornmeal that's been pre-cooked and then ground. You can find it in some of the Mexican stores. Actually, I hear that some of the Asian stores have masa arepa. I haven't seen that yet, but I'm sure some of the bigger ones like your H Mart in some of the bigger cities probably do. The basic ingredients for this are 1 cup. Well, it's 1 to 1. 1 cup of water, 1 cup of masa. 2 cups masa, 2 cups water. So it's pretty simple to remember. So it's 1 to 1 with a little bit of salt. You're going to need a little bit of salt in here. I just got a pinch of sea salt. We're going to put the sea salt in there. We'll mix that up a little bit. We'll add our water. We'll mix our dough. And then as soon as our dough is mixed up, we're going to let it rest for just a few minutes. That way it hydrates everything evenly. And then we're going to divide this up into 4 balls. We'll do the dividing after this has a chance to hydrate. There's no real reason to work it much beyond that. Anyway, we're going to let this sit here and just hydrate for a minute or two. Okay, everything's been resting a little bit. I got these into 4 balls. I would say even, but they're not quite even. But that's okay. They're close. Now we're going to take and we're going to put some plastic over here. If I can get it to keep from getting all stuck together. Alright, we're going to take one of our balls. We're going to kind of press it out a little bit, kind of keeping the edges even. Lightly wrap this, press this down a little bit. Pair our edges, push in, kind of mash down. You're wanting to have a nice pretty round disc when we get done. Wrap it, and we'll push it down a little more. That's about the thickness I want. Clean the edges up one more time. Now that's what I'm looking for right there. As you can see, I got a little bit of gap right there on this side. So let's take a little bit of dough from that one. Kind of press that in. Anyway, we'll set that aside and we'll make the other ones up. Okay, now we're going to put some oil in my cast iron pan. I like using cast iron for this because it's nice and heavy. But because it is such a heavy pan and cast iron, they don't like to heat evenly. I like to put it on the fire on low for a little while before I start trying to cook. And then I add my oil and I heat up. Now, how much oil you add depends on will determine the color of the arepas. If you have just enough oil to keep the arepas from sticking, then they will be a lighter color. Whereas if you have plenty of oil, then they will kind of fry a little better, and that will make them a nice yellow golden color. I like that color, although most of the ones I saw in Colombia were a lot lighter in color. So anyway, As you can see, the pan is warm. It's not screaming hot. And you don't really want that because you want these, it takes time to cook these through. These are not like tortillas that cook real fast. So, as you can see, I have my temperature set on just below medium. And that helps it cooks them, it crisps the outside, but yet it gets the inside done as well. Because if you just brown them if you put them in too hot of oil, the outside will cook, they'll look pretty, but when you cut into them, they'll be doughy. And I want to avoid that. Alright, my arepas have been on this side, been cooking on this side for about 5 minutes now. Now let's see what we got. I want you to see. See, they're starting to get a nice color. I like that. We'll flip these over and we'll let them cook on the other side till they're done. Okay, now these have been going about 4 minutes on this side. Let's take a look, see what we got. See, they're getting some nice color. Usually the second side, like on anything like a pancake or anything like that, doesn't have to cook quite as long as the first side. Alright, let's go ahead and take these out. Now I've got one more. I'll go ahead and cook this one up. I need a little bit more oil in my pan. Not much. Mix that around. That oil should be hot now. And we'll finish cooking this one up. Okay, the last one's all cooked up. As you can see, it has a little more color on it. This one would be perfect eating as just a plain arepa. When it comes out of the pan, spread a little butter on it, and it would be perfect just like that. Anyway, let's take one of these others, and we're going to stuff it with cheese. It's pretty simple. We're just going to take, and carefully, you don't want to poke yourself. I'm going to put the knife in here. We're going to make a slit. We don't want to go all the way through. There we go. And you can see I got a little bit of arepa. See, that's still just a little bit, it's not quite cooked. It's almost there, but not quite. Now we're going to force this cheese in here. It doesn't really want to go. We're going to make it. I happen to be using mozzarella. Monterey Jack works good for this. Any kind of soft white cheese. Alright. And then we'll just stuff the other ones just like that. Okay, now to finish these things up, to melt the cheese, you can cook them in the pan and you get the cheese melted that way. But I think it's necessary to do them on the grill. That way you get that flame taste. So anyway, I've got a grill hot as I can get it. And I'm going to put these things in here. And I'm going to put the cheese kind of pointing towards me so I can keep an eye on the cheese. I want to cook these until the cheese gets melty. I'm going to cook them on both sides. When I just start to see the cheese melt a little bit, I'll flip them over. Now I may kind of move them around to get some nice even cooking on them, but you get the idea of what I'm doing. As you can see here, the cheese is starting to melt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip these things over. Now that was about 1.5 minutes, but time is really going to depend upon the flame that you have on your grill. Now let's give them a little bit more time on this side. Okay, that was about 1 minute on that side, and as you can see, our cheese is really melting, especially on these two in the center. So we're going to take them off. Just move these other two to the center for a second. Let them be nice. Just get that char on it just a tiny bit. Alright, a few seconds on that side, just flip them over real quick. Alright, we'll take these off and these are done. Okay, as with anything that just come off the grill or is cheese filled, give it a second or two before you bite into it. Let it kind of cool down a little bit, or else you could wind up with cheese stuck all over the inside of your mouth. But anyway, I want to see how these things taste, because they look excellent. Yeah. A me gusta.